Well, shalom, shalom. Oh, I'm pretty, hold on a second. There, I got overexposure here. Overexposure. Okay. All right. Well, that's more like it. That's more like it. Yeah, overexposure here. Anyways, welcome, welcome. Shalom, shalom. Welcome, welcome, world changers. Here we are again, another evening and another series we're going to be doing based upon what you guys were saying there last week. We're going to be talking about the origins, the genealogy, the virgin birth of Yeshua, of Jesus. All right. So tonight I'm going to be specifically talking about the genealogy of Jesus tonight. So this is a very, very interesting topic. All right. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be comparing Matthew with Luke. I'll read some of Matthew, read some of Luke, and compare that with what it says in the Tanakh, especially in First Chronicles, and also, how that all fits together, and how we can, first of all, does it all fit together? Is it all compatible? And if not, then what's the explanation behind this? So we're going to be talking about all this stuff. All right. So if God puts it on your heart to share the live stream with your family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, fellow church members, whatever you have, fellowship, your fellowship, what would you say? Friends and such, acquaintances. So let's share the live stream. We'll get everybody on board here. Okay, as always, I pray that everything that we share here tonight and throughout the week would be a great blessing to you. Increase your knowledge of the scriptures, your knowledge of the things of heaven, your relationship with God, and your knowledge of the truth. At the end of the day, it's really all about the truth, really. So let's see what we can find tonight in the scriptures and in history and all this good stuff. If you have any questions, now I want to I can answer questions about some other topics as long as it's not too involved. Some questions we may have to do another whole live stream or another whole series for that matter on some questions. But if you have a simple question that can be answered simply, I will try to do that if it's a little bit off topic. But let's try to keep our questions more on topic tonight, and the topic being the genealogy of Jesus, and all of that kind of talk. Once again, if you do have something that's really on your heart, really heavy, and you really need to ask a question about something else, and we'll look into that. Prayer requests. If you have any prayer requests, feel free to drop those in the live chat. I take prayer requests very seriously, as I know what it's like to need prayer and to ask for prayer. And, I appreciate it when somebody prays for me promptly. So I try to do the exact same for everyone else. All right. Yes. So don't be shy to put in your prayer requests, specific prayer requests. We'll get to those. All right. So the little bit of an outlook on the night. I'm going to pull up a screen that's going to be divided in two, Matthew on one side, Luke on the other side, and I'll read some of Matthew, or maybe even, I won't read the whole chapter, but I'll read the genealogy part, or at least some of it, and same with Luke as well, and we'll talk about that. We'll pull up First Chronicles a little bit after that, and we'll talk about that as well as the other Gospels as well. All right, so let's see what we have in the live chat before we get into the thick of it. Calamentos says, shalom to all. Shalom, Calamentos. Welcome. Blessings, blessings. Stephanie says, so excited for today's content. Thank you, Stephanie. Welcome. Shalom, shalom. It's great to see you. Seesaw says, hi and blessings to all. Hello, and blessings multiplied back to you as well. Randy says, shalom. Shalom, Randy. Blessings multiplied to you and yours. By the way, Randy, I was with the band a little bit earlier today, and we were practicing Come Thou Fount. So Lord willing, we'll have that going on Wednesday. Appreciate your request. Blessings, blessings. Stephanie says, thank you, Hannah. Yes, thank you, Hannah. That was beautiful, beautiful. As always, Hannah blesses us with her music, and it's always live. And as far as I know, it's always spontaneous. It's just like, just going right with the, flowing with the Spirit, if you will. Billy says, shalom, shalom, Billy. Welcome, blessings, blessings multiplied to you and yours. Good to see you, Clifton. Shalom and welcome. Flo says, blessings, everyone. Blessings. Flo, multiplied back to you. Shalom, welcome, welcome. Blessings to you and yours. Seek the Lord says, shalom, shalom, seek the Lord. Welcome and blessings multiplied to you as well. Going Nowhere says, often I focus more on my struggles than my blessings. Maybe I should change my way of thinking, count my blessings more instead of my curses, so to speak. I'll always have my problems and worry about the future, but I forget how good I have it compared to some people. Yeah, that's the thing. We were talking about this the past few days as well, and I'm sure that you remember this as well. Something that's been on my heart and mind recently, and that is really to enjoy enjoy the present. A lot of us, we look back, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or longer, and we think, wow, back in those days, wow, it was just very fond memories, and you get all nostalgic, about some stuff that happened maybe when you were a child or a teenager or anything like that. But back in those days, if you want to be honest, back in those days, we did not really enjoy the time, the present, as much as we enjoy it now looking back. Look back and we enjoy it now more because we know now, we know it's over with, so to speak, and there's nothing to worry about. So let's carry that into the present, right? There's nothing to worry about. Our trust is in God, and God's still on the throne, and He will see everything through. And as long as we're, focused on Him and focused on following His ways, I think that there's nothing but goodness and mercy that will follow us, go before us, as it says in Psalm 23, all the days of our life. It's just an amazing thing. God has been with us. God has been faithful. God has blessed us so much, and God is with us now. And God will be with us in the future. That is just absolutely amazing. Enjoy the present. Yes, Going Nowhere. Enjoy it now. Maybe in another 10 years or so, you might look back and say, oh yeah, I remember those times when we used to have online fellowship, and wow, those were the days. Those were the good old days, Yeah, these are the good old days. Right here, right now. We're here. Enjoy. We got the fellowship. We got each other. We got God. It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. We're all here, and we are blessed. We are blessed. Thank you, Going Nowhere. Chana One True King. Hello. Welcome. Blessings multiplied to you as well. Stephanie says, on the beach today. Wow. All right. Thankful even for hard times, Clifton. Yeah. Hard times are hard times, but yeah, we're talking about, I think it was Going Nowhere. No, it was John that was asking about that there the other night. Hard times, or suffering, if you will, how it builds our character. What does not slay me makes me stronger. Yeah, that's amazing. That is awesome. Okay, yeah. So let's begin putting our minds, our spirits, if we can, as much as possible, back in the first century. This is our focus. We want the real deal. We want to know what it was like to live in 30 AD, 29 AD, 28 AD. During the height and the peak of the ministry of Yeshua, we want to know what it was like. Even after the fact, in 40, 50 AD, what would it be like to live back in those 60 AD, 70 AD, 80 AD? What was it like to live back in those days? I think that a lot of Christians, they don't think of this kind of thing. And I think it's very important. I've said many times, and yes, I'll say it again, that I think that a lot of times the Bible canon can be misleading, because we open it up and you open up the New Testament, you look at Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Acts and Romans, and all, and you think it just gives us the impression that it was all supposed to be all together, and it was all written to be part and parcel of the same book, and that it was all. It's almost like people think that it was all written by the same author, or that the authors were basically working together in harmony. But that's not necessarily the case. In the first century, the New Testament did not exist. The Book of Acts church did not have the New Testament. And that may be very difficult to comprehend, because now today in every church, the New Testament is, that's like the foundation of it all. But back in those days, they didn't have the New Testament, book, the writings of the New Testament per se, put together in a canon at all. In fact, you could argue that in, say, 30, 40, 50 AD, or at least 40 AD, up to 50 AD, there was like next maybe none of the New Testament books written at all. So all they had was the Torah and the prophets, the Ketuvim. The Ketuvim meaning the writings, such as, these books that are not necessarily classified as Torah, and they're not necessarily classified as the prophets, but they're in the they're considered to be part of the Holy Scriptures as well, such as Esther, as Ecclesiastes, Psalms, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. We're going to go there. A lot of this kind of stuff. So, Seesaw says no official canon. But faith was amazing. Yes, absolutely, for sure. So most scholars believe, and I do believe, that we have some sufficient amount of evidence to back this up, to support this, that the first of the 4 Gospels was Mark, and that was written around the time of the destruction of the Second Temple. Around 70 AD. There are reasons for that, such as the emphasis on the temple in the Gospel of Mark, which we don't have in the other Gospels, and some of the wording when it comes to the destruction of the temple and such as well. There are little clues that scholars look at in these Gospels to date them, as well as just the overall paleography of it. In other words, typically speaking, when you got ancient texts, the earliest or the original would be shorter in length, and as time went on, there would be somebody who would use that as a template or as a source, and they would kind of take that and rewrite it and add some things and define some things, try to help the text out, so to speak. And that is what scholars believe what happened. With Matthew and Mark, Matthew and Luke, that they had Mark as a source amongst other sources. So Mark was written first. I think we have a fair amount of evidence to say that. Mark being the shorter gospel, it is more raw. It is a lot more like of a raw kind of feel to it. If you only had the Gospel of Mark and you didn't have Matthew, Luke, or John, you wouldn't have it's like just bare bones. It's just like the bare bones gospel. So the idea is, after Mark was written, they figure at least a decade. So around 80 AD, or after that, at least 80 AD, the author of the Gospel of Matthew came around, and it's like, okay, so we got Mark circulating over here. I think that there's another audience that also needs this same kind of biography about who Jesus was. And so they took Mark as one of the sources, and they kind of rewrote Mark in a way. Scholars know this because of the wording and some of the phrases. Looking at Mark compared to Matthew, it's like word for word. Like it's like somebody copied somebody. Like what are the chances that you would have two authors in two different decades writing exactly the same thing without having one or the other as a source? So the idea is Matthew came after, and he wrote to a slightly different audience. Now, Matthew has a little bit more of a Hebrew feel behind it. So the idea is that Matthew had this Hebrew audience. It is commonly believed that Matthew was written by a Gentile to a Gentile, like a Hebrew/Gentile audience as well. And Matthew was not written, I believe it was in Antioch. Most believe that it was written in Antioch, which is not even in Jerusalem or anything like that. So Matthew was written in a completely different place than Mark was, to a completely different audience by a completely different author. And then Luke come around after that, and Luke himself, he says in Luke chapter 1, he said that he had sources. It says, many have undertaken to write about the things that Jesus of Nazareth said and did, and yada, yada, yada. So that tells us right there in plain language that Luke had other sources. He knew of other sources, as many have undertaken to write about these things. So it's commonly believed that Mark was one of those sources. Matthew probably one of the sources as well. So Luke had Mark, and at least possibly Matthew as well as other sources, such as what they call the Q gospel, and perhaps even other sources. And then, long time down the road, the Gospel of John comes around. Commonly believed to be about around the year 100. Some scholars believe, especially scholars such as Marcus Vincent or Robin Faith Walsh, would believe that the Gospel of John was written in the later 2nd century, like over 100 years after Yeshua. So Mark was the first gospel. Mark was the first gospel to be written. Before Mark, they believed that the epistles of Paul were in circulation. Now, these epistles, again, Paul did not write the epistles to be in the Bible. He wrote them to be encouragements and supplements to what encouragement to his constituents and contacts in different areas of Asia Minor and Rome, and also written to be a supplement to what they were already taught by him. Kind of like a follow-up letter, because we know that Paul was traveling around the region, and he probably met most of these people that he wrote to, like the saints in Rome and the churches in Galatia, and the saints in Thessalonica, all of them, right? So he met them, he taught them, and he was just writing a follow-up letter. So his epistles were not written to be in the Bible. I don't think Paul ever even thought about a thing such as the Bible. He wrote it as just a personal letter. Now, for example, if Titus or Timothy, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, if they are authentic, which they're not necessarily considered to be authentic, the other ones are, but if they are authentic, it's actually one man writing to one other man. Or at least there might be a couple involved, but it's not supposed to be for a big audience. Paul to Timothy, Paul to Titus. So Paul wrote his epistles, for the most part, before the first gospel was ever written. Now, we're going to be talking about this quite often throughout this series. And tonight, we're going to be talking about specifically the genealogy. Paul seems to say, now, it is in one of his epistles, it's like, do not follow vain genealogies, yada, yada, yada. It's like he doesn't really have a whole lot of value to genealogies. So, not only do we know that because he said, don't follow vain genealogies, but he also said, don't argue or debate about vain genealogies, but he also omitted the genealogy of Jesus completely. He didn't say anything about the genealogy of Jesus at all. Nothing. Zero. Nothing. Pedro says, does Jesus have any other names? If so, what are they? You could say he has many other names. You could call him the light. You could call him the branch. You could call him Mashiach, Messiah. You could call him the prophet of Deuteronomy chapter 18. And there are many, many other names. A name is really just a description of who a person is, not necessarily just a word that you can sound phonetically. So right off the bat, we have something that's it's interesting to say the least, that for the first, well, they say that Yeshua was probably crucified around 30 AD, give or take. So if that's the case, the first epistle of Paul was written around 50. So that's like 20 years. That's like 20 years of absolutely no epistles written at all, unless you believe some of the New Testament Apocrypha was written in that time, or something like the Gospel of Thomas. So it's 20 years. And so Paul comes around 50 AD, writes his first epistle, then 60 AD comes around, 70 AD. So then by the time the first gospel was written, it's like 40 years after Yeshua was crucified. 40 years. And the writings that were in existence were only personal letters written by one man to either a group of people or to another man. They were not written to be part of the Bible. There was no New Testament. And within the first 40 years, at least from the canonical books, there was absolutely no mention of any kind of genealogy at all. So if the genealogy of Jesus was so important, why didn't Paul ever mention it? Not even mention it. He could have said, well, you guys, you should look up, you should make sure that you know exactly what the genealogy of Jesus is, because it's very important. He didn't even mention that at all. So apparently, he didn't think it was that important. Paul did not think it was that important. So the genealogy was not recorded by Paul at all. There were some things like, just a hint you could say, like, for example, that Paul was talking about the seed of David. I think it's only like, twice maybe in all of his writings in the matter of like how many decades. So very, very vague, very, very uninformed, not very informative about the genealogy of Jesus at all. So Mark comes around in 70 AD or thereabouts, and he wrote his gospel. Nothing in there about the genealogy of Jesus either. Nothing. Matthew and Luke come around about a decade plus after Mark. So this, now we're talking like 50 years after Jesus was crucified. And they talk about the genealogy of Jesus. But then John comes around, the Gospel of John comes around later, and the Gospel of John does not talk about the genealogy of Jesus either. He does not go through the list of the genealogy of Jesus. So this is a very unique situation here, with only Matthew and Luke that recorded the genealogy of Jesus. Keep in mind, again, back in those days, in the first century, even into the second century, the New Testament did not exist, at least not with Matthew and Luke in it, except for Marcion's New Testament that happened in the midst of the second century. So there were people, many people who lived and died from the time of Jesus to the time when the New Testament came around, and they did not hear of, or they did not have any writings about the genealogy of Jesus. That said, let's take a look at Matthew and Luke, and let's compare them. Are they compatible with each other? Do they say the same thing? Do they have the same genealogy? If not, who's right and who's wrong? Now, before I get into this, I want to make you a promise. I promise you, if you come to the table, if you already come to this video, saying to yourself, I know there's no contradictions in the Bible, there can't be contradictions in the Bible. If that's what you say, if that's what you believe, you're not going to see anything. You're going to make excuses for everything. You're going to make it work no matter what. You're going to take the square peg, you're going to whittle it down and you're going to force it into the round hole, and you're going to say, see, there's no contradictions. It all fits together. I guarantee you. If you come already saying there's no contradictions, there are no contradictions, you will not see it. You've already made up your mind. You know, you believe what you believe, and you're not open for anything else. You're not going to change. You're not going to see anything else. But if you come to the table with the attitude of, I don't know if there is, and I pray that God will show me if there is. And if there is, I will accept it, because I want the truth no matter what. I'm not going to cling on to my dogma. I'm going to let it go because I just want the truth. My dogma being whether or not everything in the Bible is just perfectly in line with with the other, that there's no contradictions and all kinds of stuff like that. So if you come to the table saying, I want to see if there is, and if there is, I'm willing to accept it. If there's not any contradictions, I'm willing to accept that. If you come to the table with that attitude, say, I'll take it either way. I'm not going to, sway one way or another. I'll just take whatever we have in front of us. I'll take it for what it is. If you come with that attitude, I believe you will see the truth. But if you want the truth, you need to be willing to change. If you're not willing to change, then you're not going to grow in knowledge. If you're not willing to change, Because if you're not willing to change your views, your doctrine, or your knowledge, or your knowledge base, if you will, of what you accept to be true, if you're not willing to change that, what you are saying without saying it, you're saying it without saying it, what you're saying is, I already know all the truth about this situation, I already know all the truth about this topic, and nothing will change my mind. Like you know everything. If you come to the table like that, yeah, you're not gonna see anything other than what you already believe. But I implore you to be humble, say, you know what, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it. You can let me know in the live chat. This is what I believe, this is why I believe it. And if there's anything that would lead me to change my mind, I'm willing to. I'm willing to change my mind. If you're like that, then God bless you abundantly, because I think that is the position that's the position to take for truth. Magic Turtle over there on TikTok says hello from New Zealand. Hello, hello. Welcome and blessings multiplied to you. We're talking about the genealogy of Jesus tonight. So please, y'all, come to the table tonight with an open mind, not an empty mind, but an open mind, not a closed mind, but an open mind. And come with the attitude of, hey, if what I believe is wrong, I am willing to change. I'm willing to change. That's the best way to approach this. Then you are like Play-Doh in the hands of God. Fear not, little flock, says the Father. Fear not. It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. You don't need to fear. All you have to do is just trust God. Pray. Say, God, I just pray that I will find the truth, even if it hurts. Even if it goes against my dearly held beliefs, I am willing to accept the truth. I don't want to turn a blind eye to it. I don't want to just say, yeah, but. I want the truth and the whole truth here. Matthew chapter 1. I got Matthew chapter 1 on the left-hand side. I got Luke chapter 3 on the right-hand side. Okay. Matthew chapter 1, the genealogy of Jesus Christ. So Matthew, by the way, the book of Matthew is anonymous. We don't really know exactly, we don't know for sure who the author is. It's just church tradition that says it's Matthew, whoever Matthew is. You know, as a lot of people would say, and I believe a lot of scholars would, I believe that they're correct, that we can safely say that this author is not the same Matthew as the disciple, because of the way it is written and because of how he refers to Levi or Matthew. Anyways, this author is an anonymous author dubbed as Matthew, as there were many Matthews back in those days. We don't know which one it was. He says this: the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. So he starts off right away at Abraham. He says that Jesus, right off the bat, Yeshua is the Christ, which is the Hebrew transliteration of the word Christos, which is the translation of the Hebrew word Mashiach, which simply means Messiah, and that means anointed one. So, in other words, this is the book of the genealogy of Yeshua, the anointed one, the Messiah, the son of David. So this phrase, son of David, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in the days coming, a little bit later this week. Son of David is a messianic term that is based in and rooted in 2 Samuel chapter 7, okay, the prophecy of the Messiah, and the son of Abraham. So right off the bat, Matthew, in this one verse, he consolidates three phrases, he's very emphatic. Yeshua is the Messiah. Yeshua, Jesus Christ. The word Christ is not his last name, by the way. Okay, it's not like it was Mary and Joseph Christ. Okay, no. And they had a little baby Jesus Christ. No. This is just saying that Yeshua is the Messiah. And then when he says son of David, this is a reiteration of that. Basically, he's saying Yeshua is the Messiah, the Messiah, the Messiah. That's basically what he's saying here. Yeshua, the Messiah, the Mashiach, the son of David, which means Messiah, the son of Abraham, which means Messiah. So he's really just pounding it in to his readers. Messiah, Messiah, Messiah. Now we know that Matthew is like this. He likes to do this kind of stuff in his writings. He goes, I'm tempted to say he goes overboard. I think he does in certain ways in his writing, being exuberant and vigorous in his writings. You don't see this in Mark. You don't see this kind of stuff so much in Luke, but it's there in Matthew. Matthew's like this. He loves the drama. He likes to have impact. Jesus, the Christ, the Messiah, the son of David, Messiah, the son of Abraham, Messiah. And then he goes from Abraham on. So he forgets everything from Abraham, before Abraham. He doesn't talk about anything before Abraham at all. There's nothing in there about Noah or Seth, Abel, Adam, any of this kind of. He starts at Abraham. Why would he start at Abraham? Because again, the Gospel of Matthew is more of a Hebrew/Jewish focus. And according to Jewish worldview, Abraham was the first Jew. So it's like before Abraham, Gentiles. But Abraham was the man. He's like the father of us all. So he's like, in the Jewish mindset, it's like Abraham is basically where it started. Not so much Adam per se. You know what I'm saying? Not so much Adam per se, but more like Abraham's where it started. He was the first Jew. Look it up. Who was the first Jew? You're going to see most of the results coming back, if not all of them, saying it was Abraham. So why would Matthew start with Abraham? Because of his Jewish focus. He's focused on this. Abraham. David. Okay, so he goes, Abraham begot Isaac. So he's saying that the Messiah's line came through Isaac, as in not Ishmael. Isaac begot Jacob. Jacob begot Judah, his brothers. Judah begot Perez and Zerah by Tamar. Perez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram. Ram begot Amminadab. Amminadab begot Nahshon. Nahshon begot Salmon. Salmon begot Boaz by Rahab. Boaz begot Obed by Ruth. Obed begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David. Okay. Another thing about the genealogy of Matthew is kind of out of turn per se, because it's not, you don't see this kind of stuff anywhere else. But Matthew throws in the female names too, some of them. A few of the female names, he throws them in there. Not in Luke like that, and certainly not in the Tanakh. So there are many different theories as to why Matthew would throw in some of these female names. Not all of them, some of them. Okay. I read some theories on it, and I'm not convinced of any of the theories that I read. It could be a number of things that he. Maybe it's just a personal preference of his. Maybe he likes to include the odd matriarch in there along with the patriarchs. So this is where things get interesting. Matthew says David the king begot Solomon by her. So then he mentions Bathsheba basically here again, mentioning the females. All right. So according to Matthew, Jesus' line came through Solomon. Now, Luke this is what is kind of misleading. Not misleading. Sorry, I shouldn't use that. Not misleading, but rather confusing about Luke, And this is that he does the genealogies backwards. He starts with Joseph. Whereas Matthew does it forwards, Luke does it backwards. And I think this is probably one of the reasons why a lot of Christians don't pick up on this. That, okay, so it's kind of hard to compare the two when you got one, enumerating the patriarchs forwards and then the other one going backwards. So with Luke chapter 3, the genealogy of Jesus, it starts at verse 23, but in order to keep it on par with Matthew, we're going to have to start at the end. Now, you see here, Luke, he starts right off by talking about Adam. So in this translation, we got Adam, the son of God. Now, this always intrigued me because it's like, was Adam the son of God? You see this word, the two words, the son, are in italics, which means it's not in the original manuscript. So it literally says Adam of God. Created of God, I think, is a little bit better to say than the son of God. Albeit, we got Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Enoch, Methuselah, and Lamech. Then we got Noah, Shem. So coming through Shem, the Semites. Our fact said Canaan, Shelah, Aber. Aber is where the root of the word Hebrew actually comes from. Haber, or Hebrew. Okay. Haber, Peleg, Reu, Serug, Nahor, Terah, and then Abraham here. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah. So let's compare this. We got Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah. Is that what Matthew says? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah in Matthew 1 verse 2. Yeah, so far so good, guys. Then we got Perez, Hezron, Ram, and Amminadab. So Matthew 1:3, Perez, Hezron, Ram, and Amminadab. Okay, perfect. So far so good, guys. Then we got, in Luke, we got Nashon, Salmon, Boaz, Jesse. In Matthew 1 verse 4, we got Nashon, or Amminadab, Nashon, Salmon, Boaz, and Jesse. Oh, excuse me. Boaz, Obed, and Jesse. I missed that, Obed. Yeah, so Boaz, Obed, and Jesse. So far they're on par. No discrepancies whatsoever here. Everything looks good. So we got David in Matthew 1 verse 6. David, Solomon. In Luke chapter 3 verse 31, David, Nathan. Okay. Houston, we have a problem. Right from here, everything else is different. Because Luke follows the genealogy through Nathan, whereas Matthew follows the genealogy through Solomon. I know, I've heard it so many times, and I well, I'm ashamed to say I believed it, and I actually even purported this theory before. And that is the theory that Luke is like, that's the genealogy of Mary, and Matthew is the genealogy of Joseph. Okay, so we got them all. We got it all covered, right? We explained it away, right? That's why it's so different. Because both Mary and Joseph were from the Davidic line, except Mary came through Nathan's line, and Joseph came through Solomon's line. Sounds good, right? Only one problem with that. One big problem with that. In Luke, if you go and see the end of the line, it doesn't say Mary. It says Joseph. So here's when we get these Christians, and I was one of these people, where you just put a blindfold on. You don't see that. Oh, I know it says it's the line of Joseph, but no, it's not really the line of Joseph. It's the line of Mary. And it just says Joseph in there because, well, Joseph was her husband, and it was in their, well, just never mind. It was Mary. It says Joseph. No. It says Joseph. It doesn't say Mary. Now, that's the first big problem. Actually, it's not the first big. The first big problem is in Luke, it says that the line of Jesus came through Nathan. The second big problem is it specifies explicitly it's Joseph's line. There's another big problem with that. Another one, especially with the idea that, well, one's of Mary, one's of Joseph. I personally didn't know this until relatively recently, like maybe a decade or so ago. I was studying some of the extra biblical historic texts of Christianity, and I run across a text, which I'm going to show you guys tonight, that speaks about Mary and her family. In fact, there's more than one text that speaks about Mary and her family. Now, before I go there, if Luke is talking about the line of Mary, so let's just say it says Joseph, it says Joseph here, but oh no, it doesn't really mean Joseph, it means Mary. And Haley was the father. So is Haley the father of Joseph or the father of Mary? To those who put on their blindfolds and say that this is the genealogy of Mary, they would say, well, Haley must be the father of Mary. Haley, the father of Mary. Haley, Mary. Hail Mary. Something like that. Haley, Mary. No. So who was Mary's father? Who was Mary's father? According to ancient texts, which I'm going to show you tonight, the father of Mary was Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim. Now, there are some people that are so desperate to make this work. There are some people that are so desperate to make this work, they say, well, Haley is just, it's the same name. Haley, Jehoiakim, same name. I'm not buying it. It's not the same name. We got a lot of problems here. Why would somebody try to make this be Mary when it doesn't say Mary, and it actually doesn't jive with Mary's genealogy either? The only reason why someone would do that is to make Luke work with Matthew. Like, oh, they're both right. Who says they have to be both right? Who says they have to be both right? Unless you believe that the Bible canon is of God and perfect. If you believe that, where's your evidence? Not even the Bible itself says the Bible is perfect. Not even the Bible itself says that God told anybody to put Matthew and Luke together and that they both work. Where does it say that? No, it doesn't say that. Any given Bible, be it the Protestant Bible, the Roman Catholic Bible, or the many of different Orthodox Bibles, any given Bible, it doesn't matter to me which Bible, any given Bible, because all these Bibles have different books in it. You realize that, right? Some books have 66. Well, you got the Protestant 66, the Roman Catholic 73 book. You have Orthodox Bibles that have everything from 73, 74, all the way up to 81 books, a whole a spectrum of different books. We have no evidence that any of these Bible canons, meaning the list of books that were included in any given Bible, is of God. Any given Bible is nothing but a library of books that men have chosen to put together, and they canonized it. They canonized it. My point is this, there's really no reason, there's no good reason to try to make Luke work with Matthew or Matthew work with Luke. There's no good reason for it. They're two different books written by two different authors at two different times in two different places to two different audiences. Completely different. And it seems like they had two different sources. And if Luke was written after Matthew, which I believe it was, then Luke didn't believe Matthew's source, but rather he had his own. Typically speaking, when it comes to historicity, I think that Luke is a little bit more on par with history. But I do like a lot of teachings that Matthew brings forth, and I think that a lot of teachings that Matthew brings forth is on par with the Tanakh. A little bit more so than Luke, by the way. So each one has their pros and cons. So those of you who believe that this is Mary's genealogy in Luke, you have to jump through a number of hoops, bend over backwards with blindfolds on in order to say that. Because it says it's of Joseph, and it says the father was Haley. So let me show you the other texts where the other texts that speak of Mary's lineage. One is called the Protevangelium of James, which means the first gospel of James. It's actually it's a wonderful book. It's really a wonderful book. We're going to have to read through this, sometime. We're going to have to read through this. It's a wonderful book, the Protevangelium of James. It simply means the first gospel of James. Now, I'm reading from a website, newadvent.org. The birth of Mary, the Holy Mother of God, the very glorious Mother of Jesus Christ. So that's a subtitle. So in the first paragraph, it says, in the records of the 12 tribes of Israel, Jehoiakim, a rich man exceedingly, he brought his offerings double. Okay. So anyways, the story goes on. I'm not going to read the whole thing. The story goes on to talk about how Joachim, him and his wife Anna, right here in paragraph 2, they had little baby Mary. Now this is from the Protevangelium, the first gospel, the Gospel of James. There's another text that also confirms that Mary's father is Jehoiakim. It's called the Gospel of the Nativity of Mary. And this also says the exact same thing, that we have Jehoiakim, that was the father. So we got Mary, sprung up from the royal stock of the family of David, born in the city of Nazareth, was brought up at Jerusalem in the temple of the Lord. Her father's name was Jehoiakim, and her mother Anna, right there. Right there. Now, that's the third problem we have, okay, when it comes to the differences between Matthew and Luke. Let me just reiterate here. The first problem is it says Joseph, not Mary. The second problem is the father, Haley. It says Haley. It doesn't say Jehoiakim. The third problem is we have all these texts that says Jehoiakim and Anna were Mary's mom and dad and mother, respectively. The fourth problem is that the genealogy that we have in Luke adds 15 generations to what we have in Matthew. 15 generations. Think about this for a second. How long is that? How many years? 15 generations. I have, years ago, I went through a study of my lineage myself, and I was able to go back, I think it was like 10, but it was like 500 years, it was like, I was able to go back a fair amount of many generations, several generations, like 10, I said. And that goes way back, way back. How many years would 15 generations be? 15 generations. So if you compare Matthew with Luke, you'll see that Luke has 15 more generations than Matthew does. 15 more. That is unbearably different. That is irreconcilably different. That would potentially add another several hundred years to the genealogy of Jesus. That's a problem. That's a big problem. So we have to look at it, and to those who would say, well, the genealogy of Luke is Mary and the genealogy of Matthew is Joseph. That's why they're just pretty much completely different, especially from David through. All I got to say is this. If you say that, I don't know how you could say that, given these 4 points that I just brought out. It says Joseph, not Mary. It says Haley, not Jehoiakim. We have the other documents that also confirm that. And we have 15 more generations to account for. Several hundred years. How do you figure? A lot of people would say, well, Joseph was an old man. Yeah, old man, but not that old. I mean, Methuselah. No, I don't think so. No, I don't. Don't give me that. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy it. I'll show you. So without going through all of these names, let's do a count here, just so you understand I'm not just making this up, okay? So Matthew chapter 1, verse 6, from David. So 1, Solomon. 2, Rehoboam. 3, Abijah. 4, Asa. 5, Jehoshaphat. 6, Joram. 7, Uzziah. 8, Jotham. 9, Ahaz. 10, Hezekiah. 11, Manasseh. 12, Ammon. 13, Josiah. 14, Jeconiah. So there we got 14 generations, as Matthew actually said that. There's 14 generations between David and the exile to Babylon. So there's 14. We'll mark that down. We got 14 there. And then from the exile, let's just start with 1 again. Shealtiel, 1. Zerubbabel, 2. Abihud, 3. Eliakim, 4. Azor, 5. Zadok, 6. Achim, 7. Eliud, 8. Eleazar, 9. Matan, 10. Jacob, 11. Joseph, 12. Jesus, 13. By the way, Matthew. So there's to reiterate here, from David until the exile in Babylon, we got 14. And from the exile of Babylon to Jesus, there's 13. Now look what Matthew says here in verse 17. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations. From David to the captivity in Babylon are 14 generations. Okay, we counted that. That's true. And from the captivity of Babylon to the Christ are 14. What? It's not 14. Matthew's making stuff up here. Or it's either that or we have somebody's missing. Matthew recorded 13 generations, but he said it's 14. The first time around was right. I mean, he was right. So he was right about Abraham to David. He was right about David to the exile, but he's not right about the exile to Jesus. Not right. Something's wrong somewhere. It appears like he made it up, which, again, knowing the author of Matthew, this is to be expected by Matthew. Matthew does seem to make things up like this for impact, for emphasis, for drama, for effect. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Matthew would make an absolutely awesome movie director. Absolutely awesome. Because he loves this stuff. He loves the effects. He loves the impact. He loves to he loves the emphasis like this kind of stuff. He makes stuff up just to make things look like the wow effect. The wow effect. Matthew, in the last part of the book of Matthew, Gospel of Matthew, this is one example. We can go on about other examples as well. We've already done our series on the Gospel of Matthew, so I'm not going to go through every instance of this, but there is a common theme throughout Matthew that he does this kind of stuff. He adds things. He adds words. He likes to use bombastic words, and he likes to kind of blow things out of proportion a little bit compared to Mark and Luke. He likes to do this stuff for, I believe, I mean, I don't know exactly why he does this stuff, but it seems to me that he does this stuff for emphasis, for impact, for the wow factor. For example, when Jesus died, it says that there were the bodies of the holy saints, the men of old that passed away, the ancient patriarchs, basically. They all came out of their tombs and walked the city of Jerusalem. Wow, sounds like a great movie, scene for sure. The talk about the zombie apocalypse. Wow, amazing. Who are you, man? Where'd you come from? I'm Isaiah. Who are you? I'm David from 1,000 years ago. Now, I would believe it, and I used to believe it wholeheartedly. And I used to wonder about this. I thought, well, whatever happened to these guys? Because it's appointed unto men once to die, so why would they die again? Man, these guys have to be pretty bad, but they're not bad because they're ancient, they're saints, they're the patriarchs, they're the best of the best of the human race. And what? So they're condemned to die twice? Like, really? What happened to them? No mention of what happened to them. No mention in the Gospel of Matthew. In fact, there's no mention of them anywhere except for the Gospel of Matthew. You think that if this really did happen, I'm just making a point here. Matthew likes to, as I understand it, as I see it, Matthew likes to carve things in a way that would bring extra effect to the story, extra power, like a more powerful story, impact, a more memorable. And this is what, now, is it wrong for Matthew to do this? I'm not going to condemn the author of Matthew for doing this, because I don't know exactly why he did this. You could say, well, he lied about it, but it depends on how you look at it. And it depends on the context it was written. Perhaps, now, was Matthew written in a way that is it supposed to be like an accurate to the T, every T crossed and every I dotted, accurate historical account of exactly what happened factually? Or is it supposed to be a story about what Jesus did, supplemented by other effects for impact? Now, because you see, we have to be open to think of, we have to expand our field of thinking. Let's not think so narrowly how we like to do, especially in the 21st century, where you read everything as if it's a legal document. Matthew is not a legal document. And you know, when it comes to the culture and different ways that different literary works were written, I mean, just like today, we have like fiction and nonfiction and like a hybrid between the two. You can have a novel that's fiction but based on a true story, but just given a little bit of fiction in there for impact. So if Matthew put this stuff in there just for the sake of impact or emphasis so that people could remember the story about Jesus, I'm not going to condemn that unless you would say Matthew wrote it as a historical document, as if it was exactly what happened, truthfully what happened, factually speaking, as opposed to just theologically speaking, historically speaking, as opposed to factually speaking, or historically speaking as opposed to theologically speaking. It depends on how he wrote it. If he wrote it to be more theological, with a little bit more of a theological flair to it, I really don't have a problem with that. But if he actually claimed this is exactly what happened, and if that's exactly what people understand it to be, especially in his day and age, because here we are 2,000 years removed from the fact, approximately, in a different culture, totally different world, other side of the world, just so much different. It's hard to say. But obviously, if you can count, I know you all can, Matthew was wrong here. He says 14, 14, and 14, but it wasn't 14, 14, and 14. He recorded 14, 14, and 13. And Luke, well, okay, so from David until Jesus, we counted 27, right? From David to the exile was 14, and from the exile to Jesus was 13. So that makes 27. Okay? 27 generations between David and Jesus. Let's see what Luke has to say. So here's David, Luke chapter 3, verse 31. So we're going to have to work backwards. Nathan, 1. Matatha, or Matathan, that's 2. Menon, 3. Malaya, 4. Eliakim, 5. Jonan, 6. Joseph, 7. Judah, 8. Oh, wait a second. Okay. Simeon, 9. Levi, 10. Mathat, 11. Jorim, 12. Eleazar, 13. Hosea, 14. Er, 15. Almodad, Amumdad, this would be 15. Kazam, 16. Adi, 17. Melchi, 18. Neri, 19. Shealtiel, 20. Zerubbabel, 21. Resa, 22. Joannes, 23. Judah, 24. Joseph, 25. Semai, 26. Metathiah, 27. Maath, 28. Nagai, 29. Elsie, 30. Nahum, 31. Amos, 32. Mattathiah, 33. Joseph, 34. Jana, 35. Melchi, 36. Levi, 37. Mathat, 38. Heli, 39. Joseph, 40. We have a lot of difference here. Okay. There is a table here. There's a table. Let's see here. Here's a table. Comparison of Matthew's and Luke's genealogies. Luke is on the left-hand side. Matthew's on the right-hand side. So you go from David, which is just past the green here. You go from David to Jesus. You see there's a lot of difference here. In Luke's account, you got a lot of them are doubled up. Okay, so we got like Nathan. Okay. Let's start here again with Matthew. Solomon 1, Rehoboam 2, Abijam 3, Asa 4, Jehoshaphat 5, Joram 6, Uzziah 7, Jotham 8, Ahaz 9, Hezekiah 10, Manasseh 11, Ammon 12, Josiah 13, Jeconiah 14, Shealtiel 15, Zerubbabel 16, Abiud 17, Eliakim 18, Azor 19, Zadok 20, Akim 21, Eliud 22, Eleazar 23, Mathan 24, Jacob 25, Joseph 26, Jesus 27. 27. So that's from David to Jesus. Now, in Luke's account, Mattatha 2, Menna 3, Malaiah 4, Eliakim 5, Jonam 6, Joseph 7, Judah 8, Simeon 9, Levi 10, Mathat 11, Jorim 12, Eleazar 13, Jesus 14, Er 15, Almodam 16, Kasam 17, Adi 18, Melchi 19, Neri 20, Shealtiel 21, Zerubbabel 22, Resa 23, Yehonan 24, Joda 25, Jasek 26, Samain 27, Mattathias 28, Maath 29, Nagay 30, Elsie 31, Nahum 32, Amos 33, Mattathias 34, Joseph 35, Janai 36, Melchi 37, Levi 38, Mathat 39, Haley 40, Joseph 41, Jesus 42. So you see, we have in Luke, from David to Jesus, we have 15 more generations. You see here, as compared to Matthew. So we got Matthew, we have 27 generations versus 42 in Jesus, or in Luke. Yeah, so we have a lot of problems here. So the question is, which one is right? Which one is right? The short answer is I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. The long answer is, all things considered, I think that Luke is more historical. He had more sources. He was more disposed to the position of being historic as he was writing to Theophilus. I think that he would be more likely to be correct in his genealogy than as opposed to Matthew. But all things considered, they can be both wrong. They can be both wrong. And again, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. As long as Jesus is the son of David. Now, here's the thing, too. According to the Gospels, okay, let me just back up a little bit. According to the Tanakh, we have the Messiah being called the son of David. And so we also have the Messiah, especially in Jewish tradition, the son of Joseph. Even today in Jewish circles, they believe that the Messiah, actually they believe in two Messiahs. One is the son of David and one is the son of Joseph. So that idea of the Messiah being the son of Joseph, you can say, well, that's no. Look what we got. We got Jesus being as the son of David and the son of Joseph at the same time. But here's the thing. If he was the son of Joseph, that would mean that Joseph would be his biological father. The way that both of these genealogies put it, as if Joseph is his biological father, You got to, okay, anybody who would say to me, oh, no, that doesn't mean it's, how can you say that? How can you say, because look at this. Like, for example, I'm on Luke here on the right-hand side. So we got, to be consistent, let's be consistent. Let's not bend and twist and try to make it, let's not twist this. Let's be consistent here. We got Adam, Seth. Was Seth the biological son of Adam? I'm sure most, if not all of you, will say yeah. Enosh was the biological son of Seth, and Canaan, the biological son of Enosh, and Mahalalel, the biological son of Canaan, and Enoch, the biological son of Mahalalel, and Methuselah, we got Jared in there, the biological son of Mahalalel, and Enoch, the biological son of Jared, and Methuselah being the biological son of Enoch, and Lamech being the biological son of Methuselah, and Noah being the biological son of Lamech, and Shem being the biological son of Noah, and on and on and on and on and on and on and go. Obviously, it's talking about literally biological, physical sonship, fathership. Where? Okay. For those of you that are listening to this, honest question. Which one of these, okay, so let's be consistent here. This is talking about biological descendants. Like Nathan was from David's own body, loins. And Mattatha was from Nathan biologically. And Menon was from Mattatha biologically. So how many of these? Can it even be so that, Shem was not the biological son of Noah. Shem was the stepson of Noah. Could that even be possible? Is that right? Is that consistent with the Tanakh? Is that consistent with the genealogies of the scripture? Is it possible to take one and the other, saying, well, one was a stepson of the other and the other one's the stepfather? Does that work like that? As far as I see, the answer is an emphatic no. They have to be biological. As far as I see, the answer is an emphatic no. Noah has to be the biological son of Lamech, not Lamech's stepson. It doesn't work like that. That's not how the genealogies work. It's father, son, not stepfather, stepson, and it's just total mess that way. So it's biological. So here's my thing. Here's my point here. All of this is biological. So how is it that people can get to Joseph and say, oh, but Joseph is not the biological son of Jesus? Oh, but Jesus is the son of God, not the son of Joseph. Well, hold on a second. If that's the case, why do we have these genealogies at all? So why do we have these genealogies of Joseph at all? What's the deal here? Wouldn't it be absolutely ludicrous to say, well, Joseph's not Jesus' father, but we got to put that genealogy in there anyway to prove that he's the son of David? What? We got to prove that he's the son of David through Joseph, but Joseph's not his biological father. Oh, but he's the son of God. Well, what does that term mean? We have, in Luke here, you say that Adam is the son of God. You have in Genesis chapter 6, you have the angels being the sons of God. Job, we have the angels also being the sons of God. In the prophets, we have every covenant child of God a literal son or daughter of God. Everyone. I'll be a father to you, and you will be my sons and daughters, says the Lord God Almighty. Oh, but well, that means a different son. But wait a second. In 2 Samuel chapter 7, the prophecy to David of his son being the Messiah, it says his son, but it also says that he'll also be the Son of God. You see what I'm saying? Is it possible? I'm just asking a question. I mean, let's be real here. Is it possible? Is it possible for Jesus to have a patriarchal lineage all the way back to David, thus fulfilling the prophecies of David being a literal physical descendant of David through the patriarch line, not through the mothers? Okay, where do you see anywheres in the scriptures? Where do you see it? Like, you see, it's all father to father, father to son, to son to father, father to son, all this kind of stuff. It doesn't say, well, the mother was this, and the mother of that mother was this, and the mother of the other mother. It's always the male son, father, son, father, son, father, son, father line. As the son of David, wouldn't you say that Jesus would have to be the son of David biologically, physically, through the lines, through the patriarchal line, not the matriarchal line, but the patriarchal line, as we have portrayed in the Gospel of Matthew and the Gospel of Luke? It's pretty clear. This is through Joseph that Jesus was the son of David. Through Joseph. So, in other words, both of these, it doesn't matter which one, take them both. Matthew chapter 1 and Luke chapter 3. Isn't this talking physical, patriarchal? Abraham begot Isaac. I mean, Abraham was not the stepfather of Isaac. Isaac begot Jacob, same thing. Like, right from the physical DNA descendants, from father to son, straight male line. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, Perez, Zerah, Tamar, Perez, Hezron, Ram, Amminadab, all the way down. Where in this line do we have a father-in-law / son-in-law relationship? Where? So why do we try to make it to be that when we get to Jesus? Why do we switch it up and say, yeah, but it's all physical. It's all physical. Straight from the loins of Abraham, straight from the loins of David. It's all physical until we get to Joseph. Well, then that's when it's cut off. Well, is that even possible? Is that even possible? Where in the book of Acts does it talk about the genealogy of Jesus? This is where the disciples were they were reeling in the fish, weren't they? They were just reeling them in like thousands a day, And Jewish people, by the way, try doing that now. Try going to Israel now and reel them in thousands a day. Jewish, Orthodox Jews. You'll have a very hard time with the nominal modern day Christian narrative doing that. Very hard time, let me tell you. You'll have a very hard time. But I do have a hunch that the believers in the first century, especially in the book of Acts, they did not have the narrative that we have today. Perhaps, I just say perhaps, there's a possibility that they didn't even have the virgin birth narrative at all. It wasn't there. It was that Jesus was the son of Joseph, the son of David, the son of Abraham, and thus fulfilling both being the son of David and the son of Joseph, which is the double Messiah right here in front of you. This is the Messiah of all Messiahs right here, because he's from Joseph, he's from David. Is you got, like, Matthew talks about it. We got Matthew, we got the Gospels talking about Jesus as being the son of Joseph. So we also have, now here's a question here. I know this is kind of getting in, a little bit more on another tangent here, but we also have, and I mentioned this earlier, we also have 1 Chronicles chapter 3. Now we can compare Luke and Matthew to 1 Chronicles chapter 3. I did this before in the Matthew series that we did a few months ago. Excuse me. Yeah. So would you like me to do that? Would you like me to pull out 1 Chronicles chapter 3 and also compare that with our notes here? Compare that with Matthew, with Luke, and see if it jives? I think the answer will surprise you. And this is the reason why I think that we have to look at this and say, look, not even Matthew and Luke agree here. And to make things up, you can make things up if you want, but you're not going to sell me on it. To make things up by saying, oh yeah, they're both right because one's of Mary and one's of Mount. Okay, so Mary was 15 generations younger? 15 generations younger than Joseph? Really? Okay. That's a hard one to get over. I mean, you'll have to... But people are so dedicated to their worship of their canon, they'll say anything to get around it. I don't want to do that. I want the truth. No matter what, I want the truth. So, I'm asking you guys, would you like me to go through 1 Chronicles chapter 3 or not? What do you think? Let me know in the live chat. See what we have in the live chat before we get too far here. As I said in the earlier on in the live stream when we first started, I asked that we keep the questions around the topic of the genealogy of Jesus, or somewheres around that ballpark, anyways, like somewheres around there, because we can talk about a lot of other things. Adrian, your question about alcohol, I actually did a special live stream on alcohol several weeks ago. Actually, that was a few months ago now. You can look up my channel there on that topic, Adrian. Thank you for asking. Appreciate that. Magic Turtle on TikTok. Are you still there? We have Clifton pulling out lots of names of the Messiah, of Jesus. Seesaw says, I wear a seatbelt and a helmet when I study the Bible. It's a wild ride. Yep. He says, yeah, that's it. Stephanie says, great preface. Thank you, Stephanie. Sean says, the flock has been scattered, praying we can be the sheep seeking our way back to him in truth. That's a powerful comment, Sean. Powerful. You know, this is a little bit off topic, but I will say this because we can say it very quickly here. I say the Gospel of John I believe is more theological and not so much historical. That said, the Gospel of John, we have the longest prayer of Jesus in the Gospel of John. Really, the Lord's Prayer, not the Lord's Prayer as we know it, like our Father who art in heaven kind of prayer, but rather his prayer, the prayer of Jesus, if it's accurate to history, in John chapter 17, where pretty much the whole chapter, according to the author of the Gospel of John, or the authors, I should say. I do believe there are more than one author there. I do believe there's more than one author there. So, according to the authors, Jesus prayed vehemently that his believers, his followers, would be one, united, not just in unison, not just united we stand kind of thing, but like he's praying to the Father, I pray that these are one as we are one, as Jesus and the Father, as the Son and the Father and the Son are one. Like that's some pretty powerful oneness going on there. So Jesus in that chapter is praying for unity like never before. Here's the question. Was that prayer answered? I understand, I've heard, and I'm sure most of you have heard this as well, that there are 40 some odd thousand denominations. 40 some odd thousand, 43, 45,000 splits within the church. Denominations. Different, split so many different ways. It's like just like if you were to smash a jar of glass, would you get 45,000 different fragments? But there are, as they say, again, I didn't count to confirm this, but who knows, it could be right. Even if there are just like 3,000 or whatever the case is, that's still a lot. That's a lot. Could you get like 43, 45,000 shards of glass if you were to, I suppose it would have to be it would have to be quite the breakage, that's for sure. So it's either Jesus' prayer was not answered, he didn't get what he prayed for, or he didn't pray it. Because right from the very beginning, even according to Dr. Badoon, a church historian, right from the very beginning, there were splits. There were the disciples, from the beginning, especially from, let's say, the early church, from the 2nd century especially. Even in the book of Acts, we see splits, right? We see John Mark splitting off from Paul, and then Barnabas he goes a different way as well. He can't stand Paul, and they can't stand each other. And then we have the men from Judea, they got their own thing going on, and then we got James, and then we got, it's like so many, that's even just within the book of Acts, let alone, another 50 years on top of that into the 2nd century. So we got a lot of division. It's Slash here says, hi, Guy. Hello, Slash. Welcome. Flo says, LOL, Christopher, Hail Mary. Maybe that's where they got that from. Maybe that's where they got it from. Yeah, that's it. Hail Mary, Hail Mary, Hail Mary, yeah. Clifton says, I agree. Through interpreting, sure, mistakes are inevitable. I have questions also, but I do not question. So I try to grow in faith, not questions. Please, peace and blessings. It's very important, Clifton, to grow in questions. They always say, and I do believe that the scriptures also back this up, that a wise man doesn't have all the answers, but a wise man has all the questions. wherever, where in history, where in the scriptures did God ever rebuke somebody for asking a question? When did Jesus ever say, no, do not ask. You must just believe, don't ask. Just believe what I say. I mean, that sounds more like a tyrant. That sounds more like a dictator. You're not allowed to ask questions. Just listen to what I say and believe it. That's all. I think that that's very, very dangerous. I think that that's not wise. Because we have boldness. We trust God. God's not going to be offended by our questions, especially if they're honest questions. And I think that God loves it when we ask honest questions. I really do. It says in Proverbs that it's the glory of God to hide a matter, but it's the glory of kings to search it out. How do you search it out without asking questions? You must ask questions. Where is it? Where are the clues? Is it over here? Is it over there? What do we do? All these kind of questions. We have to ask lots of questions in order to find the treasure. So it's the glory of God it's like sometimes the Father likes to play hide and seek like that. The Father likes to play hide and seek like that sometimes. We must ask questions. Whenever you say, no, we shouldn't be asking questions, we should just believe, this is very, very dangerous, because you can just, any and every cult leader can say that. That's how they get control, right? Don't ask questions, just believe what we say. Well, no, ask questions. It's important to ask questions. God gave us the ability to use our God-given faculties and to search things out. I love it. It's digging in the garden of God. Oh, guess what I found? I found a treasure. It's beautiful. It's awesome. Fear not, Clifton. Fear not, Clifton. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Fear not, as it says in the Gospel of Luke, fear not, little flock. It is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. As Yeshua said himself, if you fathers, and he's speaking to people that were listening to him back if you fathers are being evil, if you wouldn't, like you guys wouldn't give your son, a scorpion if he asked for an egg. I mean, that's horrible. Even evil fathers wouldn't do that. So why would you think that God would? So you come before God, you ask God to show you the truth. And in order to find the truth, you must ask a lot of questions. It's very, very important. Ask a lot of questions. That's where the wisdom is. Ali says, Salam, Brother Christopher. Shalom, shalom. Welcome. Peace multiplied to you, Ali. Seesaw, so much figurative language and hyperbole in Matthew. Yes. Flo says, I think you missed one in the counting, so probably 41. Yeah, I did miss one there, Flo. Thank you for pointing that out. That's why I pulled out that graph. I'm like, okay, I know I counted this, I don't know how many times before. I counted this multiple times before. I know that for sure. And there was 15 more generations in Luke than there is in Matthew. So really, at the end of the day, which one is correct? I don't know. One of them has to be wrong. Maybe both of them are wrong. At the end of the day, does it really matter all that much? Does it really matter? I think that we have a fair amount of evidence that Jesus is the son of David. And really, that's the main thing. Being the son of David and son of God, too, if you want to use that terminology, as per 2 Samuel chapter 7. So we got a fair amount of evidence of this. So however that happened, I think that is really the main thing. As we said before earlier on, for the first, how many years? 50 years? approximately 50 years, not one of the writings of the New Testament mentioned anything about the genealogy of Jesus. Why not? Other than Paul just saying he's the seed of David. Okay, awesome. If he's a son, if he's a seed of David, then that's it. Then he fulfills that prophecy. Ophies says, shalom, 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 shalom. Ophies, welcome and blessings. Seesaw says, genealogies matter. I do agree. Yes, I do agree. All through the Old Testament. I agree, Seesaw. Yes. And here's the thing, too. I got to say this again because it's in my mind. Where in the Tanakh do we see the matriarchal line as being the fulfillment of prophecy? I'm just saying that when it comes to Jesus being the son of David, it seems to me, according to the precedents that we have set in the Tanakh from Genesis all the way through, it's always through the patriarchal line. Father, son, so-and-so begat so-and-so, begat so-and-so, begat so-and-so. It's always males. And I only say that because, we have the argument that Mary was also of the line of David. And so that's how Jesus was the son of David through Mary. But can that even be a thing? Is that how it works? Here's my question. Is that how it works in the Tanakh and according to prophecy? Does it work through the matriarchal line or does it work through the patriarchal line? Apparently, according to Matthew and Luke, it works through the patriarchal line, not the matriarchal line, not through his mother, but through his fathers. Sean says, super interested. I think in this context, you're asking about 1 Chronicles chapter 3. Let's finish it. It says, theory, what if Joseph has both the bloodline of Nathan and Solomon? Well, hey, at this point, anything is possible, right? Anything's possible. I don't know how that would work exactly. Either way, Luke is different, completely different than Matthew from David to Jesus. David's the same, Jesus is the same, but everything else is different. I think there might be one or two names in there. There's just a few names in there that are very similar, but it's a different line. Stephanie says, yes, please. 1 vote, yes. Okay, awesome. Sean says, thumbs up as well. Seesaw, James. I think you're talking about James the Just. James was allowed in the temple. That's what Hegesippus says, yes. Due to Davidic royal line. Seems like he'd be more Messiah with a clear bloodline than Jesus without one in ancient times. He says, I think that royal line is underestimated in importance today. Yeah. Very interesting point, Seesaw. James the Just, I assume that's who you're talking about. James the Just is considered to be the brother of Jesus. And that's another thing. We have the James ossuary. Doesn't that say brother of Jesus? As in, yeah, so Seesaw says, yes, Sadiq. Yeah, James or Yaakov HaSadiq, yes. So James would be Jesus' brother. They say Jesus' brother, royal diadem. Yeah, and it says he alone was allowed into the temple. It makes me wonder, too. It makes me wonder how can he alone be allowed in the temple? Like I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I think that that's probably the case. And how Josephus as well covers James the Just as well a little bit later. And Lord willing, we'll get to that as well. So James the Just, how can he be allowed in the temple? Almost as if he's the high priest, but he's not of the line of Levi, right? He's not from Levi, he'd be from Judah. No matter which way you look at it, because James the Just was considered to be the brother of Jesus, or at least the son of Joseph. That's pretty powerful. John asks if there's someone in store for us from a romantic point of view. Yes, I think that God is always on the throne. He's in control of all that stuff. Yeah, so we just trust God. Yes. John, what passage? Normally, I wouldn't be going too far off the beaten track here, but what passage are you referring to with the fury quote? Seesaw, Jesus said, or James said, excuse me, ask for wisdom and trust God, and it will be revealed to you. Yes. Let's finish it. Where would Luke or Matthew get the source of the genealogies? Mary kept these things in her heart. Luke said about the temple, was there a database of records? I do not know. Let's finish it. I do not know. And I've never heard anybody talk about that. I don't think that anybody would know. Luke doesn't tell us, nor does the book of Matthew tell us about the sources. Luke does say that there were sources, so I don't know where he would get that. Thank you for asking. Let's finish it. Seesaw says, correct, but if you erase Jesus' bloodline, it seems odd that Jesus is the son of David when James was so powerful due to bloodline. I'm sorry, I'm not 100% clear on that. I'm not sure exactly what you mean if you erase Jesus' bloodline. As I see it at this point, one or the other could be true. I can't see them being both true, Matthew or Luke. They still could be both wrong, and Jesus could still be from the bloodline of David. So I said earlier that I think we have evidence that Jesus was the son of David, and one of the pieces of evidence of that is that he was publicly called the son of David, and nobody had a problem with that. Like in the Gospels, we read about that. We have extra biblical documents as well talking about how Jesus was called the son of David. And I think that's a good piece of evidence, because if he wasn't, don't you think that somebody would raise an objection? No, he's not the son of David. What are you talking about? But no, it seems like nobody raised that objection at all. Seesaw says, I'm saying so James' bloodline mattered, but Jesus didn't. I don't mean you, I mean tradition. Okay. Yeah, very interesting stuff, Seesaw. Yeah, thank you. Very interesting questions. Okay, so you guys, at least there's been a few votes here for going through. Actually, to be fair, you know what? When I'm going to post a poll here just to give other people. I don't know who votes what. It doesn't tell me, just so you know. Okay, this is anonymous. If you vote yes or no, I wouldn't know what you voted unless you told me. So I'm going to start a poll. Should we go through? I'll probably have to start with First Chronicles chapter 2, and go through the genealogy there to First Chronicles chapter 3 and compare it with Matthew and Luke. So I'll post a poll here and we'll see what you guys say. So I'll give you all a chance to say yay or nay on this, and we'll see what the result is. Okay, so the poll is up. Feel free to vote away, everyone. Vote away. Let me know what you think. And we could do it tomorrow, too, by the way. Actually, to go all the way back to Adam, you'd have to start with First Chronicles chapter 1. First Chronicles chapter 1. And let me know what you think there, guys, in the poll. Here. Okay, thank you, Calamantos, for letting me know no sound. Seesaw says, my real question is, who benefits from erasing a Jesus royal Davidic patriarchal bloodline via a virgin birth? Is it political, spiritual, doctrinal? What would the motive be? This is really, really good. And thank you, Flo, for letting me know as well. Thank you. JR says, same question for me. Super, super good question, Seesaw. I can't speak for everybody. I I do think I have at least one answer for that based upon all the things that I've ever seen and heard and been taught over the years. I think that the benefit would be doctrinal. You could say spiritual too, because the doctrine and the spiritual teaching doctrine is kind of together in one. I do think it's more doctrinal. I can't speak for everybody. There could be another reason out there, so I'm not going to say I know every reason or anything like that. But as I understand it, that the virgin birth, and I've been taught this from from right from the beginning of my walk with God in 1992. I was taught through the church that I used to go to that it was absolutely a must that that there must be a virgin birth, because if there wasn't a virgin birth, then Jesus would be born in sin. And this is it right here. You said it. Maybe original sin or substitutionary atonement. Both of those. Exactly. You got it. I think that that is the reason right there. And I think that both original sin and substitutionary atonement is false. I think the doctrine of original sin is not true. I think the doctrine of substitutionary atonement is also not true. I think that that's pretty clear throughout the scriptures, especially in the Tanakh. I know some people can make an argument with Paul's epistles and such, but forget Paul for now. And this is the reason why we have Jews today that do not believe in original sin. I don't know of any Jew at all, anyone, whether it's even reform Jew or conservative Jew or modern Orthodox Jew or ultra-Orthodox Jew. I don't think any of them believe in the doctrine of original sin, nor substitutionary atonement for that matter. So, as I understand it, according to the doctrine of original sin and substitutionary atonement, there must be a virgin birth in order to be not polluted by original sin, and also to provide the pure sacrifice substitution for us, not tainted by man's blood per se, or sin, if you will. But then again, how does that work? Because Mary has a father. If Mary, I think it's all nonsense. I really do think it's all nonsense. Yeah, exactly. You got it. Seesaw got it. So then Mary's parents would be virgins too. Yeah. So that would be the whole thing. In order for the virgin birth narrative to really play out properly, and I have no problem with believing this and teaching it if that's the case. I'm open for this. But in order for it to work, you would have to have everything from Adam and Eve all the way to Jesus, as all of them being virgin births. All of them. Then you can say, oh yeah, it's all, there's no, tainted blood anywhere, basically. It doesn't work. So that is what I think it is. I think that those who are predisposed to the doctrine of original sin and substitutionary atonement, they're the ones that are very biased towards the idea that it must be a virgin birth, because you can't have purity without a virgin birth, which I don't believe is true at all. I think that babies are pure. I think that there is no sin. I don't think the babies sin. I don't think the babies transgress the law of God, especially newborns, depending on how you define them, the term baby. Yeah, so I think that when God rebuked the people in the Tanakh over and over and over again for treating the sacrifices as if it's a substitutionary atonement, I think that that is proof that the doctrine of substitutionary atonement is not right. It's not consistent with the scriptures, with the ways of God. Can you imagine if that played out here on earth? Oh, Your Honor, I know I'm charged with these horrific crimes, but hey, buddy over here, he lived a good life for me, so let me go. Your officer, I know I was going 100 over the speed limit, but the guy behind me, he's obeying the speed limit for me. Okay, it's a substitutionary thing going on here. So, I'm innocent. How does that work? JR says, so let's say no original sin because each person is responsible for his own sin. That's biblical. That's the alternative that explains and corrects that view so we can correct our friends. Well, if your friends are good critical thinkers, and if they're a little bit on the humble side, I think it'd be easy to talk to them. Okay, so let's go to First Chronicles. Well, I'm going to start with chapter 1. We've got 10 votes already. Everybody's voting yes. There's not one person who said no. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll here. I'm going to end the poll here. Okay, so I'm going to compare Luke, at least for the first part of First Chronicles, because Matthew doesn't have anything before Abraham. So Luke, again, we got to do this backwards. So First Chronicles, we got Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan. So Luke, we got Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan. Okay, everything's good there. Check, check. Mahalalel in First Chronicles, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah. Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah in Luke chapter 3. Perfect. First Chronicles, we have, this is chapter 1 for those of you who are listening to the audio version of this. We have Lamech, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So we got in Luke, we got Lamech, Noah, and Shem. Okay, so it goes from Shem. So we'll have to scroll down here. So that's everything's on par. Everything looks good so far between First Chronicles and Luke. Everything's good. We'll just go down to Shem because that's where it starts. So we have to go down to First Chronicles chapter 1, verse 17. The sons of Shem were Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, Aram, Uz, Hul, Gether, and Meshach. Okay, so in Luke chapter 3, we got Arphaxad. So that's it. We got that one. Okay. So, then we got to go find Arphaxad here. Okay, so here it is here. This is First Chronicles chapter 1, verse 24. Shem, Arphaxad, Shelah. So Shelah is here in Luke chapter 3, verse 37. Aber in First Chronicles 1:25. Aber, Peleg, Reuel. So we got in Luke chapter 3, verse 35. Aber, Peleg, Reuel. Okay, everything's good. So far, so good here. First Chronicles 1, chapter 26. Serug, Nahor, Terah. Luke 3:35. Serug. Okay, then up 34. Nahor, Terah. Got that. And then we got Abraham. Abram, who is Abraham in 1 Chronicles 1:25. Sons of Abraham are Isaac and Ishmael. So Luke 3:34 has got Isaac and Jacob. We know that that's, don't really have to check it, but here we are anyways. Okay. Isaac and interesting that 1 Chronicles 1:34 doesn't say Jacob, it says Israel, and we know it's the same guy anyway, different. I guess you could say Jacob born again. Okay, then Judah, Perez, Israel. Go to 1 Chronicles chapter 2. Sons of Israel. This is verse 1, Judah. So we got Judah there. Of course, we know that anyway. Judah, the sons of Judah were Er, Onan, and Shelah. Okay. These were born to him by the daughter of Shual. Er, the firstborn of Judah, was wicked in the sight of the, so he killed him. And Tamar, his daughter-in-law, bore him Perez. Okay, so we got Perez. All the sons of Judah were 5. Sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamuel. So we got Hezron here in Luke chapter 3, verse 33. We're going to have to go back to Matthew chapter 1, but we'll do Luke chapter 3 first. Hezron. The sons of Hezron who were born to him were, oh, there's Ram right there. Ram. According to Luke chapter 3, verse 33. So we're so far so good. 1 Chronicles 2, verse 9. Ram begot Amminadab. So there we go there. And we got Amminadab in Luke 3:33. So far so good. Amminadab begat Nahshon. Nahshon in Luke 3:32. Good stuff. Okay. Nahshon, according to Luke 3:32, begot Salmon. It says Salma here in 1 Chronicles 2:11. It's the same, pretty much the same name, just different, a little bit different. Same guy anyway. Salma begot Boaz. So this is right on par with Luke chapter 3. Boaz, yeah. Boaz begot Obed. In Luke chapter 3, it says he begot Obed as well. And Obed begot Jesse and David. So we got Jesse, of course, and David is there as well in 1 Chronicles chapter 2. Okay, Nathan. So we're in 1 Chronicles chapter 3, verse 5. Nathan, we got there. Now, according to Luke chapter 3, Mattatha was Nathan's son. Okay. Are we going to drop out here? 1 Chronicles 3. Family of Solomon. I mean, Jeconiah. Do we got any more Nathan here? Only one. Nathan. Matatha? No. So it appears that it appears like we can't get any further than Nathan here. Maybe. Hold on. It doesn't seem like we got anything. Yeah. That's it. I don't see anything. As far as I see, I don't see anything past Nathan in First Chronicles in the first few chapters anyway. So we come to a dead end here when it comes to Nathan. But so far, we have been. Luke has been pretty good when it comes to all this stuff. There's no discrepancies whatsoever. Yeah. Yeah, so it seems like we come to a dead end here. I don't see anything other than what we have here for Nathan. So that's it. So Luke, as much as we have on our hands here in First Chronicles, at least right now, he passed as much as we have to compare. So let's have a look at Matthew. Hope and pray for Matthew. Okay. So Matthew here, we got, we have to go back to Abraham, right? Matthew. Let's do it. We got Matthew on the left-hand side, First Chronicles chapter 1 on the right-hand side. Abraham begot Isaac, Jacob, Judah, and his brothers. Judah begot Perez. So we went through this. We know this is right. Yeah, so we got, where are we now? Abraham, Isaac. It was Israel, right? It said that Isaac begat Israel. Or was that now? Right here. Israel. And of course, we know that Judah begot Perez. We went through this here. So family of Israel, Judah. Judah begot Perez. Perez begot, now it says Zerah here. Okay, Zerah right here. Oh, wait a second. Judah begot Perez and Zerah by Tamar. This is Matthew chapter 1, verse 3. Perez begot Hezron. Okay, so we got Hezron there. That's okay. And Ram. Right there. Right there. Aminadab. We got Nashon. Nashon in 1 Chronicles chapter 2. This is 2, verse 10. Matthew chapter 1, verse 4 says Nashon. Matthew chapter 1, verse 4 says Nashon begot Salmon. And 1 Chronicles 2:11, Salma, same difference, same guy. Salma begot Boaz. Okay, so that 1 Chronicles 2:11, that's Boaz. So that's good. Everything's good with Matthew so far. Boaz begot Obed in Matthew 1:5 and 1 Chronicles 2:12. We got that there. Boaz begot Obed. Obed begot Jesse. And so we got that as well in Matthew 1:5. Jesse begot David. So in 1 Chronicles chapter 2, verse 13, we also have Jesse, or verse 14, Jesse begetting David. David the king begot Solomon. Okay, we know that's the case, but where do we find that here in 1 Chronicles? That'd be 1 Chronicles chapter 3. Solomon, this is 1 Chronicles chapter 3, verse 5. Solomon begot Rehoboam. We know that's the case right here in 1 Chronicles 3:10. Rehoboam begot Abijah. So it also coincides with this, 1 Chronicles 3:10, Abijah. Abijah, according to Matthew 1, verse 7, begot Asa. And we got that also in 1 Chronicles chapter 3, verse 10. Asa begot Jehoshaphat, according to 1 Chronicles. And we got that in Matthew chapter 1 as well. Jehoshaphat begot Joram in Matthew 1. And we also have Joram there in 1 Chronicles chapter 3. Joram begot Uzziah in Matthew 1. In 1 Chronicles 3, it's Ahaziah. So I'm not going to say that's different per se. I think it's could be just a spelling difference there. Probably is very, very similar. Probably the same guy. Uzziah begot Jotham in Matthew 1. Jotham here in 1 Chronicles, chapter 3, verse 12. Matthew 1:9, Jotham begot Ahaz, and then Ahaz begot Hezekiah. So we got the same in 1 Chronicles 3:13, Ahaz, Hezekiah, then Manasseh after him. Same with Matthew. It goes on with Manasseh, begot Ammon. Ammon's also in 1 Chronicles 3:14. And then Josiah, which is also in Matthew 1, verse 10. Josiah begot Jeconiah. Sons of Josiah were Yehonan, his firstborn. Second, Jehoiakim. So Jeconiah, uh, I suppose you could say that's the same name as Jonathan or Johanan. Yohanan. So in 1 Chronicles 3:15, Yohanan begat, the sons of Jeconiah were Asir, Shealtiel. Okay, so we got Jeconiah. Wait a second. Wait a second here. You guys see that? So Yohanan in 1 Chronicles 3. Wait a second. Jehoiakim begat. So we got Josiah, Jehoiakim, and after Jehoiakim, Jeconiah, and after Jeconiah, Asir. So, Matthew. After Jeconiah, Shealtiel. So Matthew left out, he cut out Jehoiakim. Matthew cut out Jehoiakim. Bad news for Matthew. Again, I think my own thoughts initially, I think Matthew's doing what Matthew does. He fudges the numbers to make it the way he wants it to make. It's got to be 14, 14, 14, although he didn't count the last part right. He said it was 14, but it's not 14, it's 13. So he messed up there. He cut out Jehoiakim. He cut out Jehoiakim. Right? You see that, guys? Sleight of hand there by Matthew. He cut out Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim is in 1 Chronicles 3, but it's not in Matthew. He skipped from Jeconiah, or from Josiah, right to Jeconiah. So he skipped over Jehoiakim. Okay. This is the thing to take notes on, guys. Even take notes. Take some notes on this. Jeconiah, or Jehoiakim. Excuse me. Jehoiakim has been eliminated from Matthew's list. He left that one out. Whoops. Okay. Anyways, so we're down to Shealtiel now. Shealtiel begot Zerubbabel. Okay. Shealtiel. Isn't there? Okay. Is it just me? Is it just me getting tired here, or is it that Shealtiel? We got another problem, another one. Because it wasn't Shealtiel that begot Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel Abiud. Where in the world? Okay. We got some problems here. Shealtiel. His son, okay. As it says, Pedaiah was the one who begot Zerubbabel. but it doesn't have. Someone might say it's a different Zerubbabel. In Matthew, Zerubbabel begot Abiud, and Abiud begot Eliakim. Okay, so this is where things go bad here. Okay. Okay, so Shealtiel, it's all messed up here. From here on in, it seems to be all messed up. So he skipped over Jehoiakim. The whole thing about Shealtiel, what that's it. Yeah. So as far as I see, that's as much as we can't really compare much more. So at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said earlier, and I said it a few times already. It seems like Luke is a little bit more on the ball when it comes to being historically correct. Yeah, that's as much as we got. I don't think we have anything else to compare. But Matthew went off the rails a couple times, it seems. At least once completely off the rails, and maybe a second time again with the whole thing with Shealtiel and Zerubbabel, which doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all. So that is as much as we can do in regards to comparing First Chronicles 1, 2, 3 with Matthew and Luke genealogies. Again, Matthew can be completely wrong. Luke can also be wrong too, because we don't really have anything to compare it to. I mean, everything that we have for Luke seems to be pretty good. He's accurate, and Matthew not, which it's not surprising for me. JR says, what's the purpose of baptism? Church says it cleanses of original sin, but it's, what is it biblically? Baptism would be the Hebrew or the Jewish mikvah. Baptisms, according to Jewish practice, which they get it from the Tanakh, is performed for any kind of new season in your life. Any kind of new season. You something happens. You make a resolution, New Year's resolution. You can get baptized. You quit smoking or something like that. I mean, I'm just saying, any kind of change in your life. Some women every month, their monthly cycle, they had a baptism. They have a baptism every single month, a mikvah. Symbolic of just a new beginning, washing the old away. Baptism of repentance, seesaw, yes, that would be especially John the Baptist Baptism was the baptism of repentance, yes. JR says Hebrew Matthew gets them all to be 14. I forget who was cut, but it's correct. Yeah, as much as I can see so far, JR, Hebrew Matthew is a complete forgery of Matthew. It's a manipulation, as much as I can tell. It's not the original. Nowhere's close to it. JR says, supposedly skipping generations was common then. At least that's the common explanation. So if Robert has Andrew, who has Michael, then Michael is by their logic, a son of Robert. Yes, but let's not ever mislead by saying that if someone like Matthew, or whoever Matthew was, be it Matthew, the author of Matthew may have been someone completely different. Maybe his name wasn't Matthew. Nobody knows for sure. If the author said that there are 10 generations, then there should be 10 generations. They're like, well, I can just pick and choose. Maybe there's 1,000, but I'll just say there are 10. That's misleading. That's lying. That's lying. I understand, yes, David's son is also called the son of David. So in that context, skipping generations is understood. But you can't skip generations and say that there are X number of generations when they're not. Like, in other words, from David to Jesus, you can say that Jesus is the son of David. So yes, in that context, you can skip all of the generations down to Jesus, however many there were. Be it you go with 27 or 42, which one you go with, or maybe neither of those is accurate. But yes, you can skip all of the generations by just calling a person the son of David or the son of Abraham, as we can say, I'm the son of Abraham. Abraham's, Father Abraham, the song, right? Father Abraham. So we're all sons and daughters of Abraham. But when it comes to historical account of the generations, if you say that there were 10 generations between Abraham and me, that's lying. That's not, skipping generations is allowed. No. Skipping generations when it comes to the descendant of a person, the son of Abraham or the son of David. Yeah, you can skip 1,000 generations by saying so-and-so is the son of David. You can skip 1,000 generations and that's understood. Everybody understands that. But to say that there are 14 generations when there wasn't, and to to make things up like how it seems like Matthew did, I think that's, again, if Matthew wrote it as a factual, historical account, then he misled everybody. Then he was wrong. If he wrote it not to be factually or historically correct, but rather to be dramatic, because Matthew loves his drama, it seems like. So if he wrote it just to have dramatic effect, to say that Jesus was the Messiah, the son of David, and he did it in such a way by just saying 14, 14, 14. Wow, look at this. Wow, amazing dramatic effect. If that's how he wrote it and how people understood it back in the day, that's how he wrote it and they understood it to be like that, I don't have a problem with that. Because it's like, okay, that maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe it's like, yeah, the people in the first century, they didn't really believe that, that it was really 14, 14, 14. But they understood that Matthew or whoever it was actually just he was just adding effect, drama, the special effects in there. 14, 14, 14. Wow, this is amazing. This is something to remember. This is something to give you to remember. But the point being that Jesus is the son of David. the son of Abraham, the Messiah. Okay, I have no problem with that. So at the end of the day, it seems to me that Luke is more likely to be correct as opposed to Matthew. And I say that because of the right, again, please, if anybody who's listening to this, if you're wondering, how could I ever say that? Oh, Christopher, listen to the whole series on Matthew. We went through all of that. We pointed out every place where Matthew went nuts on his explanation about certain events and how he added dramatic words and he adds things here and there quite often, actually. He likes to put in these extra, he just likes the drama. He would be a great movie director, that's for sure. Absolutely. Matthew, move over, Mel Gibson, here comes Matthew. I think Matthew would do a wonderful job on movies. Not necessarily accurate, but he loves the boom, the effects, the bombastic words, and the wow effect. So at the end of the day, I think that we have sufficient evidence to say that Matthew was not necessarily accurate in his rendition of the generations by skipping over generations without letting us know, whereas Luke didn't, at least as much as we saw. So I would go with Luke. If one of them was correct, I would say, if someone said to me, okay, here's a quiz. Is it Luke that's accurate or is it Matthew that's accurate? One of them is, one of them is not. One of them's accurate, one of them's not. I would say definitely Luke, not Matthew. As much as I really like the Gospel of Matthew, I really do. Matthew is like really good in other things, such as, the teaching of the Torah and against lawlessness, all this kind of stuff. I love the stuff in Matthew. Matthew 7:21-23, Matthew 25, the parable of the sheep and the goats. Lots of good stuff. I actually wrote my song, This Is the Hour, based partially on Matthew, partially on Luke. This Is the Hour, the song that I wrote and I sing every once in a while, is based on Matthew 28 and Luke 22. Luke 22 and Matthew 28. Yeah, so I'm going to wrap it up here in just a few moments. Any lingering questions as in regards to what we were talking about tonight? Now's the time to drop it in the live chat. Other than that, those of you who are listening to this, if you're even listening in the background, if you haven't already, please leave a like. Please subscribe and follow if you haven't already. And we'll do this again tomorrow. It'll be another part of the series of the origins, genealogy of Jesus, virgin birth. We're going to be talking about all these things in the next, in this week, the remainder of this week. Yes. Seesaw says, I think that the Nathan versus Solomon piece is interesting, considering Solomon had ... issues. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Is that why, it makes you wonder, is that why there's Nathan in there instead of Solomon? JR says, trouble is, if you say the genealogy is inaccurate to many people, it opens the door to doubt the rest of the book. I think this is what they call the fallacy of the composition versus the whole. just because you can have a book that has, you know what, put it this way. Most books, biographies that are written about people, I think they have errors in them. I don't think there's anybody that knows exactly what this other person did, like step by step, breath by breath. I think that there are inaccuracies in every biography, in every story. I mean, you can go to the library or you can go on Amazon, buy a book, a really, really good book with like 90% truth in it. There could be 10% that's not true. So why throw the baby out with the bathwater? Why throw the baby out with the bathwater? I think that somebody who says, oh, well, this book is inaccurate here, that we'll just throw the whole book out. I think that somebody who thinks like that is very overly simplistic. They must have a very, very shallow way of thinking. Who alive has ever, said, who alive has always been accurate in every single thing that they've ever said since they began to talk? But yet every one of these people do believe what, a lot of things that people say, and rightly so, because a lot of people have a lot of truth. I would say that these people, JR, that you're talking about, I would say that they are, truth be told, they're hypocrites, because they do believe people who have told a lot of lies. So why not throw everything out? Why not throw everything that you've ever heard out? Everything, because the source is not perfect. Doesn't matter whether it's the Gospels or any other source anywhere in history. It's not perfect. We have to think a little bit deeper. Say, yeah, okay, so 10% of this book is false, but there's 90% gold there. No way am I going to throw this out, because there's a lot of good stuff here. It's a lot of truth here. And this is the reason why we talk about critical thinking so much, JR, to be able to know what the difference between truth and the false is, what is good evidence, what's not good evidence, what to believe, what not to believe, and to be able to articulate it. Thank you, JR. Flo says, thank you for your time, Christopher. See you next time. Thank you, Flo. Blessings multiplied to you and yours. Seesaw says, it's the inspired word of God. Doctrine is so powerful to shut down questions, exploration. Yes, thank you, Seesaw. Seesaw says, great stream. Thank you again for your time. Thank you, Seesaw. All right, that'll be it for tonight, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow, Lord willing, in this series on Jesus' origins and virgin birth, all of this kind of good stuff. We have lots and lots to talk about. It's going to be amazing. Stephanie says, blessings. Thank you, Stephanie. Blessings multiplied back to you. Blessings to you and your family. Okay, guys, we'll see you again tomorrow. As always, keep on calling on him, and he will show you great and mighty things. Child of One True King, thank you for your time. Christopher, thank you. Child of One True King, much appreciation. Appreciate you. Okay, guys. Seesaw says, buckle up. That was just day one. Yeah, today is not that. We wait until we get to the... Yeah, we got a lot more to talk about. Lots more to talk about. That's for sure. Let your Christian friends, family members, and neighbors know about it, because we got lots of stuff to talk about. All right, guys. Love you guys. As always, I pray the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face to shine upon you, lift up his countenance upon you, and give you wonderful, wonderful shalom. Amen. Amen. I'll see you guys tomorrow.